my day is starting out. I began my day at Stockton at 5:30 this morning. Got here to Cisco Fremont at approximately 7:15 due to traffic, but I made it. Today I just wanted to kind of give you a brief little bit of history about myself as a driver. There are a lot of women out there who are considering this as a career. I, for the last 22 years, have been a local driver. I never wanted to go cross country because I had kids to raise. I was a single parent, and it wasn't until my youngest daughter graduated high school that I just decided that I may want to go cross country. But this message is for those of you who are considering getting into this industry. If you want to be a local driver, it can be a lot of fun, but it can also be a pain. This company that I'm temping for right now does a lot of drop-in hooks, and they also have places like where I'm at, Cisco in Pleasant Grove, that do live loads. And what I'll end up doing is delivering this load to whatever destination it's going to. I've been driving since 1991, and I can honestly say I love this industry. And I've heard before where people have said that, you know, once you get it in your veins, you'll never be happy with anything else. I kind of agree but disagree with that theory, because there's one thing that I love just as much as I love trucking, and that is talking to teens at high schools. But this I love because it gives me the opportunity to get out, to meet new people. I get paid to travel. I mean, who wouldn't want it? So I went to truck driving school in Sacramento at a school called Truck Driving Academy back in 1991. I was in class number 143. I was one of two females in that class. I don't know if the other female is still driving, but I rather enjoyed it. I was a top student in my class, and I'm not tooting my own horn. I just went into it with the idea that if I'm going to do this, I'm going to be extremely good at it. I wanted to learn everything I could about this industry, and Truck Driving Academy absolutely gave that to me. So kudos to TDA. In that time, as I said before, I never wanted to be a cross-country driver. So all of the companies that I worked for predominantly had me either pulling doubles, 48s, or 53s. I've used 2-axle tractors, 3-axle tractors. I've done line driving. I've done a lot of drop and hook for FedEx Ground. I worked for FedEx National before they merged with FedEx Freight, doing a lot of LTL deliveries, which is less than a load. That's what that stands for. The thing about being a female driver, there's so many benefits to it, but there's also a downside to it. If you're not a hardworking person, don't even think about getting in this career, because driving alone is gonna cause you to feel fatigue. But if you add having to do the type of local driving where you're gonna have to get physical, it's not for everybody. I learned to become physical, and you will learn to become physical as well. You will run into a lot of places that you go to make your deliveries. The shipping person or the receiver. There are a lot of friendly receivers and shipping people out there, but there are also those ones that it doesn't matter how nice you are, how good you look, how professional you are, they're gonna give you a hard time, and you can double the amount of stress you feel on that just because you're a woman. Not saying that it happens everywhere, but it does happen. You're gonna have to be on top of your game, because just like in every other industry where women are striving to be their very best, in trucking, it's almost like you really have to prove that you're just as good as any man in this industry. The thing I hate is when I run into other drivers or people who are completely shocked by the fact that I drive trucks, and their attitude is like, oh my God, you're driving that truck, or you driving that truck, little lady. I've heard it all. You know what? Yes, I am. And loving it. And, get good at backing. Get good at being safe out there. Ladies, do your pre-trips, because you're going to work for some companies that have excellent equipment, and then you might go and work for another company and they do not take care of their trucks. It's your responsibility to be sure that everything in your truck is working as it should. I mean, if there's a light out, get it fixed. If the tire looks low, go get some air. If your brakes need to be adjusted, that's your responsibility. These are things that you need to think about, when you're out there on the road. If you get pulled over by a CHP officer and that person wants to do, or a DOT officer, and they want to do an on-the-spot inspection, you better have all your ducks in a row. Your paperwork needs to be intact. Your logbook needs to be updated. Just everything needs to be together. You're going to run into lots of frustrating situations. The toughest part about driving trucks, which I don't mind because as a local driver, I get paid by the hour. But the toughest part is sitting and waiting, either to be loaded or to get unloaded. Sometimes you're even sitting and waiting for your dispatcher to get back to you. Even as a local driver, they'll tell you, well, stand by for 15 minutes. Okay, you could take a quick break. That 15 minutes sometimes can turn into an hour. And by then you're frustrated. You've already worked 9-10 hours and they want to send you somewhere else. You know they're going to send you somewhere else. So you're frustrated because you're having to wait for them on top of knowing that you've got more stuff to do. And that's the part of it that can be tough. I'm so used to it now that I don't allow it to stress me out. I don't have any little kids at home. All my daughters are grown. And speaking of that, that's another thing that you have to consider when coming into this industry, is when you have kids. If you're going to be, I can only speak as a local driver because that's what I've done. I could imagine this doubles for women who are over the road. But I had to, as a single parent, work for companies that had me working 12 to 14 hours a day sometimes. And that was really hard because I had 4 daughters at home. They were all young. The good part is, for the majority of those companies that I worked for during my daughter's early years, I would make arrangements so that my daughters can go on these trips with me sometimes. Because I was spending so much time away from home, it literally was breaking me down. So I would alternate which kid was going to go with me on which date. I remember I used to do one line run where it was taking me from Sacramento, California to LA or somewhere down in the Southern California region. So that's an overnight trip every single time. At that time, I was driving a Kenworth that had double bunk bed sleepers on it. It had a little refrigerator on it. It just basically had everything I needed. So whenever I wanted to take my daughters, all I had to do was make arrangements with my company, sign a waiver saying that I am responsible if anything happens to me or the vehicle with my children in the vehicle. And I don't know if companies are still doing that, but that's how I got through those early years with my daughters. It's hard on a family, whether you're local or over the road as a driver. It's hard on a family. So if you're going to come into this career If you're married or single, especially if you're married, you need to have a good understanding with your spouse as to whether this is the right option for you. And if you decide to take this option, this is going to be your responsibility while I'm out on the road, and this is going to be his responsibility while I'm out on the road. One of the other things that I wish somebody really would have talked to me about during the early years that I was driving was about hygiene. I mean, I'm a pretty clean person. I consider myself to be pretty clean. But I have worked for companies where, you know, I could be going local. Local to me is like within the city that I'm working in, or it's within 100-mile radius or within 200-mile radius. That's local. If you're working for a company that